My name is Tim Sullivan. I'm the CEO of ActivePDF, and I am here to talk about I sign, therefore I am. I'm not that United Nations guy that did that funny thing. So we're going to be talking about digital signatures and electronic signatures today and what the difference is and understanding identity repudiation. So exactly what we're going to be talking about. So why are you here? Well, you may have seen the title and said, well, wait. A signature isn't a signature? Two, what's the difference and why should I even care? Three, what the heck is identity repudiation? Four, am I at risk? Five, when we get into it, should I build it or buy it? And six, I, meaning you, got questions. So first off, let's talk on the term electronic signatures. In the e-Sign Act of 2000, everyone remembers, I think, when Bill Clinton signed he signed the bill into law with a smart card from Thought. The term electronic signature means an electronic sound, symbol, or process attached to or logically associated with a contract or other record and executed or adopted by a person with the intent to sign the record. It also contains other provisions for storage, reproduction, and electronic consent. But there's nothing in the Act for establishing identity of the signer or even the integrity of the record. In fact, the Act puts limitations on the agencies to require the use of specific technologies, which means under the e-Sign Act, you can't force people to use PDF. So, but let's take a look at electronic signatures in PDF. This is specifically for a friend from the IRS. An executive order, be it known that as of this date, a few weeks ago, the individual, me, shall no longer be required to pay income taxes, ever. Okay? After insertion of a PNG file, thank you, President Obama, for allowing me never to have to pay income taxes again. But is this good enough? In some cases, actually, it might be. But by itself, no. It's obviously difficult to prove the intent required under USC 15706-5, which is the e-Sign Act. So most importantly, how can you prove the identity of the signer? I mean, I found the signature on the web. So this is where we get into digital signatures. A digital signature is a mathematical scheme for demonstrating the authenticity of a digital message or document. Now, this is a quote. I did not come up with the next one. A valid digital signature gives a recipient reason to believe that the message was created by a known sender, such that the sender cannot deny having sent the message, and that the message was not altered in transit, which means a digital signature says, I know that you sent it, or I know that you sent it, or I know that you sent it. And I also know that it didn't change. So I was asked, how do I explain digital signatures for the layperson? So my first draft of this, the program committee tossed and said, no, that's way too technical. I use terms like hash and well, the hash was the big one, and then MD5 and SHA, and they said no. So when I could get my chief operating officer to actually agree and understand what a digital signature was, I think we kind of got it. So basically, everything in the document is pumped through a process to create what we call a magic number. Okay? Any change to the document, whether it's a 1 byte or a lots of bytes, alters the magic number. The magic number is then locked with a private key, something called PKI. We're going to talk about that in a second. And it's stored inside the document or logically associated with the document. But then the magic number can also be validated with a public key. All right, so let's actually take a look at this graphically. The PDF comes in. It does a bunch of math. And it comes up with this magic number. For those of you who want to know, the magic number is called a hash. Okay? It's then taken a private key, locks it, or encrypts it, and then you have what's known as a digital signature. So we'll talk about PKI for a second. Again, for the layperson. Again, I had to make this as non-technical as possible. PKI, public key infrastructure, also known as asymmetric cryptography. There are two keys, the public key that you can give away and the private key that you hold near and dear to you. Everybody here knows working with secure servers, HTTPS, all right? Okay, it's the same concept with that. On your server, you have this secure private key that locks everything, but then you got to give out the public key to people so that they can actually decrypt it. So with PKI, one key can only either lock or unlock, and the other key can only do the opposite. So let's look at, everyone knows about a traditional password. I enter my password into something and it locks it or unlocks it. So a traditional password is this one person here, one key locks and unlocks. In PKI, or asymmetric cryptography, one key, Mr. Green, locks, and the other key, Mr. Red, unlocks. Now, those two can be flip-flopped. Mr. Red can lock, and Mr. Green can unlock. Why this is important is you have to be able to verify a digital signature. Otherwise, why have one? So what we do is we take to verify the digital signature, we've already come up with the, but we'll get down to the bottom there where the digital signature is. We've already gone through the process of creating it. So to verify it, we take that same PDF that's got the digital signature with it, and we do math on it. And we come up with our magic number. We then take that digital signature that was locked with the private key, and we then unlock it with the public key. And we get another magic number. If the two magic numbers equal, it's a valid key or a valid document. Nothing's been changed. That took a very long time to figure out. I'm a developer by trade, so for me to actually go through and figure out, yeah, like I said, my chief operating officer, I get it now. All right. So, understanding digital signatures in PDF. I'm going to thank Leonard in the next session over here, because when he said digital envelope, I said, yes, people are actually going to hopefully get this concept. So, a digital signature in a PDF. We think of a digital signature as an envelope wrapped around your digital envelope. So you put your digital envelope in. When you put your PDF in the digital envelope, it does math, and it plugs it into this little hole that's where you put the postage stamp. Yes, that's Harry Potter. So, is it illegal to reproduce a stamp? I don't know. Anyhow, so we put the stamp in there. That's our magic number. Okay, so basically what's happening in the PDF is you're actually creating a hole in the PDF, and you're putting your stamp into it, your magic number. And when you put that magic number, after you put it in there, you then encrypt it by putting your little postmark on it. So now it's encrypted, and now it's digitally signed. Any questions? You notice that there's also some lines on your envelope here. That's because you can also include in your digital signature, or actually in this, what we call the certificate, you can include identifying information. You can say who signed it, their email address, the date and time it was signed, And those can actually be embedded in the certificate that signs it itself. Certificates can also sign on top of certificates. So you could actually stick this envelope, shove it in another envelope, and so as people open it up, they're like those Russian dolls. You open them up, you get another doll inside. Well, these are all validated, digitally secure dolls that you open up, and they all, when one wrapped around the other, you know the inside one hasn't changed. Okay? Most readers out there have a way for you to validate this stuff. So when you bring it up, it comes up and says, oh, this document is valid. However, in Acrobat, when you bring up this document, it may come up and say, oh, this document is valid, but that truster is not signed. That signer is not trusted. So now we get into, well, before we jump into that, we're going to get into it. What's the best practice? Here's the issue. If I only supply a digital signature, is the definition of the electronic signature requirement of the eSign Act satisfied? The short answer is yes. A digital signature is a process under the eSign Act. The long answer is we, as a society, tend to associate a signature, a visible something on the document, whether our own or computer generated, with the actual acceptance. So having both a visual signature and a digital signature is the best practice. Okay? So digital signatures versus e-signatures, or why do I even care? Well, the three big reasons are contract enforcement, e-discovery, and hand in hand that litigation. So while a document under the eSign Act is given the same legal weight as a wet copy, you may still have foundational issues to overcome. Actually, some jurisdictions will actually assign higher weight to digitally signed versus electronically signed documents. So the foundational issues to overcome are: when was the document signed, where, how, and most importantly, who. So this is where we get into identity repudiation. So what is identity repudiation? Well, it's either I don't believe you are who you say you are, and you didn't actually sign this document, also known as I don't trust you. Or I didn't sign that document and you need to prove it, also known as you can't trust me. So how do we establish identity? Well, there's a few ways to do it. One is outside the document. It has nothing to do with the document itself. A personal relationship. Okay, if I know you, Bruno, we know each other. I say I'm going to sign this document. What are the odds of me signing it then, if I present it to you? Right? We have a relationship. Communicated intent. Emails back and forth between people. I'm going to sign this document. Really, when are you going to sign this document? As soon as you send it to me, I'll sign it. Here's a copy of the document. Organizational association. If a vice president, and you know the person is the vice president of a company, signs the document, you can be pretty sure that you've got some trust, that there's an identity there, that they are who they say they are. And then execution. If it's a contract, the terms are actually executed. Okay? Inside the document. Now, these are things that can be added inside the document prior to the document being signed or as part of the signing process. I'm talking about digital signatures. One, geolocation. Okay, so those devices now that we can all do the e-sign stuff over your on your phone or your tablet. That's sending geolocation information, where the signature is happening. IP addresses. If an IP address is coming from a well-known address, it's coming from ActivePDF.com, there's a pretty good chance that we were signing it. Two-way authentication. Two people logged in to something. and then you have the login time, the hashing of the logins, or some information about that. Embedded intent. I've seen people take those emails and actually embed them in the document, okay, as a file attachment. Personal identifiers. It could be a magic number of your of a password. Okay. Email verification. I sent you an email with the document, and I know I sent you the email because you clicked on something, you opened up the email, and it communicated back to me, you opened it. And then lastly, third-party verification, meaning a personal public key and a private key, meaning VeriSign. Gave you a certificate and you signed it or thought. So now we get into this thing that I was at the Gartner conference a few weeks ago and had a very interesting session on trust versus risk. Okay? Basically, it means trust is inversely proportional to risk. The lower the trust, the higher the risk. The higher the trust, the lower the risk. Easily said, right? Do you have $10 in your pocket?
Sure.
Can I see it?
I guess.
Pardon me?
Mm-hmm.
Can I see it?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
You want dollars or euros? I can do both.
Euros. Yeah. throw it off a little bit.
I don't want to say that.
Okay.
110, right?
Sure.
You're going to give me more.
That's fine. You can give me more.
Mel's going to give you.
Okay. All right. What have we done? He has taken a risk. He has taken a significant risk that I won't tear this up.
I know you.
Is this talk worth $10? That's the other side that he can weigh. So he has to look at my risk as well. Had we met before, he could have said, "No, I know you. I'm willing to give you $10. Okay? So I'm going to give this back to you.
Thank you.
Do you have an American Express card?
But that's crossing the line.
There you go. That's it. The risk got too high for him, so his trust in our relationship just plummeted through the floor. So we have to weigh risk. Okay, let's take some examples of really high-risk situations. An anonymous user. Never heard this person, never saw this person before. Okay, so they came in direct from the website. One-on-one verbal communication. I just picked up the phone. Yeah, I'm going to sign this contract. It's only two people talking right here, and nobody else knows about this conversation. Okay, unverifiable data. So I'm with ActivePDF 2 Inc., and they can't find me on Dun & Bradstreet. Okay, a single transaction, and then the execution precedes payment, which means you have to do something before you get paid. Okay, so obviously high risk, that's most B2C commerce out there, with the exception of the last one. Actually, no, you usually get paid before you ship something, but it's anonymous, direct from a website, one-on-one verbal communication. The only thing that's really verifiable may be a credit card, but still, Home Depot can tell us that stuff can get stolen. Okay, it's a single transaction. Examples of low risk, met personally. All right, Bruno, we've met. Email communications, as I talked before. You have this big thing going on between people. If I communicated to you that I'm intending to do this. Third-party telephone calls. I have actually been involved in a situation before where I had one-on-one communication via email. Had it not been for a third party sitting in on a phone call, there would have been a loss of intent. Something was miscommunicated. Hey, IP addresses that can be tied to a company. Yes, those can be spoofed, but validated credit card information. Okay, as much as we've heard about these things being stolen, it's still pretty reliable. Previously established authentication. They have a login to your system. Okay? And then payment precedes execution. That's the best one. Okay? So, we've come across this many times. We have products that help with digital signatures and digital signing. And, we've seen a lot of people come across, build versus buy. We come to that decision. So using a third party to establish trust. So the first thing that happens is party A and party B establish a relationship and a decision to execute a document is made. Okay, that could be as simple as a rental agreement for some office space. It could be as complex as a multi-million-dollar contract. Usually wet signatures are required for those, but let's say a $50,000 contract. Anybody here use NetSuite? No, one. Okay. Well, that they do all their contracts via a third party. Number two, so party A authenticates with party C, who's the third party, and submits the document for signature. So they log in and they submit this document. They say the person is going to need to sign here, here, and here, and initial in these three places. Then party A requests party B through party C to sign the document, which means party A it fills in some stuff, said send the document, send a notification to party B, the signer, and ask them to sign the document. So then party B signs the document with party C, and then party C notifies everyone. But most importantly, party C retains a copy of the document for both parties to access. That's part of the e-sign Act. So what are the benefits of using a third-party provider? Authentication of the sender. So I'm asking you to sign the contract, which means I got to sign up for the service, which means I've got to log in, which means I got to give them my credit card information, which means, all right, they're probably pretty authentic. Authentication of the receiver. It can be weak or it can be strong. It can be an email link. So I send the link, but what's the problem with that? I can just give anybody the link and they can go in and sign as me. Okay? But some also have two-factor authentication where they can go in and you can set it up to where you can come in and I want you to sign up before. You've got to sign up before, and then there's a two-factor email thing going on, and now I know you logged in. It's some of the companies provide that. Trusted digital certificates, platform-independent technology to visibly sign, tablets, phone, PC, Mac. Timestamp signing, which means that you can actually use a trusted timestamp authority. You can import a form and convert it to PDF. So let's say it's in Word. You just upload it and convert it. They allow you to design the forms where people can sign. They have the signed document archival. So they keep the document up there for a certain period of time. Logging of activity, including obtaining electronic consent. So if you click through here, I consent to sign. And then they're trusted names in the industry. Examples, DocuSign, EchoSign, which is owned by Adobe, Nitro Cloud, Right Signature, which is owned by Citrix, and Sign Now, which is owned by Barracuda. But you can build it. A good alternative if trust is high. So if signatures are in a fixed location, okay, or easily identified by a PDF field name, you can, that was a horrible sentence. You can easily build in a signature capability. Otherwise, you have to build a designer. Plenty of third-party products that can preview a PDF, insert signature images, and digitally sign a PDF. You can use trusted digital signatures from VeriSign, Thought, etc., or be your own certificate authority. And then you can use your own existing authentication to confirm identity. So if you build it, you must also provide a consent mechanism. So I'm consenting to sign. You should audit trail all activities of the signing process. Make the signed document accessible to all parties for periods as determined by statute, regulation, or rule of law. Document the entire process to make sure it meets e-sign requirements. And of course, weigh the costs against the risks. Any questions? Yes.
Okay, the one I brought up earlier. When we sign using the PDF signature process,
Yes.
we can inspect the PDF file and recognize that this object in the PDF, embedded in the PDF, is a signature.
Yes.
When we embed or attach an electronic signature into the PDF, the metadata that allows us to identify that as a signature from a PDF perspective doesn't seem to be as robust. We can't easily recognize that this object is the signature.
Now, are you using, when you sign it, are you using sign this PDF or are you using sign a form field?
In some cases, we are, say you have a signing pad.
Yeah.
You have a signing pad and it captures that image as an electronic signature, embeds it in as an object in
Yes.
XML or the document, and then the whole thing is wrapped in a PDF.
Okay. My recommendation would be that you would use a signature form field. Okay, it's a specialized form field, and what you can do is there's a way in the signature form field to create a visual representation of that signature. So you would basically, we can talk later. I have products that let you do that. You can put the signature right in the place in the form field. It'll size it and everything, but you can attach all that metadata of when it signs and all that stuff that you're looking for. So I think that's a combination. The other is it's just a two-step process. Embed that and then digitally sign on top of it. Okay, so you can embed that signature, embed whatever metadata you want, and then, like I said, digitally sign on top of that. Okay? Are there any other questions? So I'm available after. Yes?
Just a quick question. For adoption in businesses of e-signing, it's still such a small percentage of the marketplace that's actually adopting these types of technologies.
Yes.
You talk a lot about security and trust.
Yes.
You highlight that as like the number one point of friction for why people would still use a print, sign, scan workflow.
That's one. The other one is it's until somebody encounters it as their way of doing business from somebody else, they're not quick to adopt it from somebody else. So, for example, had NetSuite never come to us with an e-sign and us look at that and say, wow, that's a pretty cool way to do things. Okay? So now we can take our documents and upload them and we don't have to deal with this paper back and forth. That's one reason. The other one is, as I mentioned before, there's a certain association with that wet signature of having that. And in fact, as I had mentioned before, that they can't, on electronic signature, there can't be any change to technologies or requirement of technologies, but there can be requirement of form. Orange County courts in the state of California require that all e-signatures be blue. I'm serious. So you can submit everything, but it can be blue. And it helps to give that comfort feeling. It doesn't really make any difference. I could have taken that Obama signature, changed it all to blue and put it right on there. Okay? But you're right in the sense that there is some of it is security, and the other is that it's not mainstream enough. As more people, though, are signing for credit cards on devices, they're starting to become more and more aware of it. And until it becomes a little bit more commoditized, okay, you got to pay for everything right now. So who's going to come up with the free service?
I think the market is different in Europe when you compare
Yes.
to. So two things. The pain in Europe is that in the laws they say electronic signatures when they mean digital signatures.
Yes.
So it's a lot of confusion caused by that. The other thing is we have identity cards in Europe, and on our identity card there's a small chip, and we can sign with our identity card. So the problem in the US is that there's no single token for every citizen that they can use to sign.
Yeah,
In Belgium, our IRS, our tax returns, we have to sign it with our identity card. Everybody has
I'm sure the government would love that here in the United States, but it is different. Also, where Europe is very standards centric. The United States, getting them to adopt standards, unless it's a statute, regulation, or rule of law, we're really not going to do it because we're driven by two things: making money and not going to jail.
in Europe, then we exaggerate and we make the requirements that difficult that they are technically impossible to achieve. So that's,
And we have, I can guarantee it, if we said you have to use PDFs for signatures, then you would have had a huge Senate hearing on why Microsoft's digital rights management is far more better for doing that. And, it's all about political correctness here as well, making everyone happy. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you very much.